Me and my partner own a home. Partner's leaving. I'm now basically purchasing the home from the two of us. Because of that, you have the ability to access up to 95% of the value of the property versus 80%.
You're listening to the Ottawa Real Estate Podcast, your go-to source for all things Canadian real estate. And now, here are your hosts, Paul Stevenson and David Warren.
Hello and welcome back to the Ottawa Real Estate Podcast, your go-to source for all things Canadian real estate. My name is Paul Stevenson. I'm joined with David Warren. We're here to bring you the latest and greatest. Just want to remind everyone who's listening, if you ever have questions about mortgages, real estate, you want to get pre-approved, you need a refinance, you can reach out to Dave and I. Our contact information is in the description, and we're always here to help. Want to give a quick shout out to our amazing sponsors, Guertin, Poirier, Avocates Lawyers, Big Insurance in Westboro, CENTUM, and Easy Neon Signs. If you go to easyneonsigns.ca and use the promo code TOREP, you can get 20% off each and every order. David, January 20th. This will be out on the 21st. How you doing? What's cracking?
I'm doing well. We're getting close to almost done the first month of the year. Past weekend was good. We had our Referral Mortgages Christmas party. It was a great turnout, a good time. Awesome 2025. And certainly looking forward to 2026 kind of with everyone, which was nice. It makes for a busy weekend, making sure everything kind of gets put together, on my side, I do, the speaking and all that. And so kind of getting prepared in that regard to make sure things don't fall to the wayside can always be stressful.
Definitely. Yeah, no, it's funny, as we get older, the weekend, if there's one event, it's like, that's the weekend. It's like Friday, you're kind of taking it easy because we got that event tomorrow, and then all day you're waiting for the event, and then the event happens. And then Sunday, you're recovering from the event,
I was 100% prepping for the event Friday night, sitting, watching a movie, doing nothing purposefully. And Sunday, cleaning up after the event, then doing nothing. Yeah.
Exactly. A couple of fun facts. I was speaking to a few lenders this week, and they were all asking, how's the year going? How's the start of the year going? They were asking. And it's funny because we're literally end of January now. Like we're 1/12 of the year done. 1/12. We're 1/12 of the way through the year, is what I'm trying to say. So
Shouldn't have been that hard.
We're moving. Yeah, brain's moving slowly. But no, it's interesting because there is a lot of conversations happening. I wouldn't say there are people out shopping, but a lot of pre-approval conversations, a lot of people asking about options. People know the rates are kind of steady, if not dropping. And it seems like the sentiment in the market, from what I'm seeing, is optimism for the year. Like people seem like they feel like they actually have a shot at buying a home this year, whereas I think years past, people felt like they were catching a falling knife, like they weren't sure if they were buying too early or they should wait or where rates are going. There was kind of a lot of uncertainty, and now it seems like there is some certainty and people feel more confident jumping back into the market.
Yeah, I mean, kind of the time will tell, I think, in that regard. We have before Christmas, we were talking about it, those that shop in the winter or that shop around Christmas time or shortly after, are purposeful shopping. A lot of people don't go out just kind of casually looking at homes in the winter, where buyers can get, the people selling need to sell and the people that are looking need to buy. And so, but you can get good deals around this time. And I think those conversations of those people looking now are again purposeful. They're not kind of just poking their head in like pokeroo, kind of just seeing what's going on and then kind of hopping out for a while. So I think it'll be interesting to see as we get through the next month, kind of through February, kind of how things kind of shake out as far as that true sentiment. And really, it was interesting. I read a stat this morning about realtors in Ontario, that 70% of realtors in Ontario did not do a single deal in all of 2025.
What?
Yeah. That there is a likely kind of massive fall off of realtors in that profession. Those that are high performing kind of still had great years, and that really kind of doubled down on marketing. They were able to take that line share from a lot of those kind of part-timers or anything like that, but kind of weeding the market out, which I think is actually a good thing, to weed out those part-timers and people that aren't focused on an industry, whether that be real estate or otherwise, and getting to it. So I think kind of as the next couple months roll on, as realtors and mortgage brokers start to have to renew their licenses and things like that, I think that'll be interesting too, to see kind of how things shake out from that optimism as well. If that continues through, or whether some of that is, some of those realtors that haven't performed last year kind of just starting the new year optimistic that it's going to be a better year, because really any sale would be better than last year.
Yeah, it's a very good point. And I think the scarcer the market, the less transactions they are, I think the more people lean into the experience of the professional they're working with, right? Like if you're already stressed about this transaction or this process of buying a home and you're looking for the best advice possible, are you going to take the person that has been doing it a year, that is a part-time, a friend of a friend of a friend, or whatever that relationship is? Or are you going to look for the most knowledgeable, most experienced, full-time, fully invested agent that's going to actually like give you the best opportunity to either sell or buy, right? And that's kind of where you see, like you said, those experienced agents. It's the same on our side. Like if you're looking for financial advice, are you going to want to deal with someone who has been advising clients for, 15, 20 years, or someone who just got their license 3 months ago? It's not necessarily that they aren't able to do it. It's just they just don't have the same experience. They may not have the same relationships with other realtors or lenders on our side or what have you. So it is I think the scarcer the market, the more people lean into the experience of the professional they're working with. We saw in 2021 when we were dealing with that time where you could basically throw a sign in the lawn and the house would be sold before anyone even came to look at it. We were joking the other day, actually. We have a new real estate mastermind in Carleton Place. So anyone who's listening, who's in our area, if you're a realtor or mortgage agent, reach out and we can connect. But during that, we were just saying how, people would go to the house with a sold topper, like knowing that they're putting an offer and getting this house. Like you see the sign, you're just putting the sold topper on top, your own sold topper, as you go to see the house with your clients. Something I'm seeing a lot too right now, Dave, more than usual, it seems, and I think it's just the time of year, is conversations about divorce and separation. So this is something I've had multiple conversations since January 1st about what does this look like? What has to be included in the separation agreement? What happens with the property? What happens with our debts, our assets? Like all of these questions, which obviously, there's many people involved in this. Certainly speak to a family lawyer, certainly speak to a real estate lawyer, speak to your realtor to see what your homes are. Like there's a lot of moving parts that we have to guide them through. But a lot of it is focused on what happens with my equity, what happens with my partner, what's going to happen with this property. I want my kids to stay in the same school district, these sorts of conversations. So something that I think is very valuable for people to understand. I've just shared it on the screen here, but it's the purchase. This is a program offered by CMHC. It used to have a different name, but now it's called a purchase dissolution of relationship. So what it means is when people are separating or divorces and one of the two partners wants to remain in the matrimonial home, you can essentially buy out your spouse's equity or pay them out their equity while maintaining a CMHC mortgage or like insured mortgage. Typical rules: property has to be jointly owned by both applicants. One person has to remain on title and take over the financing. And the buyout amount is required to be settled on the separation agreement. So it can't just be like a willy-nilly, like, oh, we're going to, access $300,000 and we're not sure what we're doing with the money. Like it has to be very specific, written in the agreement as to what.
Pay out other debts. Like even the debts that are being paid out have to be outlined in that separation agreement. You can't just pay out like your extra credit card that's personal if it's not outlined.
Correct. So there's two sections to this. I actually called CMHC last week to get all the specifics because I knew I wanted to talk about this and actually put together kind of this one pager just so people understand. It's actually treated as if it was a purchase. So they are looking at this as if, me and my partner own a home, partner's leaving. I'm now basically purchasing the home from the two of us. But because of that, you have the ability to access up to 95% of the value of the property versus 80. So, you and I own a property. We want to refinance and pull some of the equity out. Lenders and regulators cap that at basically 80%. So you can only access 80% of the value of the home. When going through this program and is deemed a purchase, you can extend that to 95%. So it gives you an extra 15% of the equity that you can then use to buy out your ex-partner. The caveat to that is that you can only incorporate the mortgage plus whatever the buyout is. Previously, you could include in that what debts are also being added to the mortgage. So you could say we're paying out $300,000 in mortgage. We're also going to give $100,000 buyout, and we're going to add in these $200,000 in debts to the mortgage. Under this program, they will only allow the mortgage balance that remains and the specific buyout. But ultimately, the most important thing here that a lot of people aren't aware of, and Dave, you know this because we were partnered at one point with the Carleton County Law Association, and so many family lawyers weren't even aware of this program. But for anyone going through a separation, divorce, or if you know someone going through a separation or divorce, reach out to Dave and I and just have the conversation so we can explain this program to you in depth, to explain exactly what is and isn't possible. And, there's been many cases where I've been able to help people stay in the matrimonial home and buy out their spouse. And, for anyone who's been through a separation or divorce, or if you've been a child of a divorce, you understand how impactful it is to, completely disrupt. Not only is one parent leaving, but then also having to relocate, start a new school, make new friends. Like, it can be extremely disruptive to your life, short-term and long-term. So this is a really good solution. And it's an opportunity for a lot of people. Some people, they bought a home with 5% down. Maybe it's only been 5 or 6 years, and now there's a dissolution of that relationship. There's still some equity built up there, and if you could only access 80%, you essentially have to sell the home, right? So this allows you the opportunity, at least, to stay in the home if you want to.
There is the other side of it of selling. However, you're then into legal fees, the costs of selling that home, whether the cost of moving and all of that, like you mentioned. So it does, that 5% is effectively what you would have paid, or even lesser than. And again, it is a sliding scale based on 95% or 5% down for the first 500,000, 10% for the remaining, or for any dollar above that. You are capped at 25-year amortization. So something to keep in mind from a qualifying perspective, you are capped at that 44-39 debt servicing ratios and the 25-year amortization. But it can be, like you said, kind of keeping things of more of a sound kind of environment for the kids and for others. For those that, if there is a relationship where you're not married, or you have an amicable split and you don't want to go through a family lawyer, you don't actually need to have a formal in-depth separation agreement. You can have one that's written up and drafted and have a lawyer notarize that as well. I've done some in the last couple of months where that's just been the case. We've gotten that right up notarized. There hasn't been child support coming or going or anything like that. It's just that the relationship has, dissolved, but they own a home. And so it's, that's something as well that can be done to kind of save costs or speed things up. Or if it's a good relationship between, it's just kind of amicable, then that could be something as well that, could speed it up and save you some money too. And it can also be used for partners, not even in a relationship, just
That's what I was gonna say,
I buy a place with Paul. We no longer want to be roommates anymore, but Paul's going to stay in the place. Then it's the same thing. We can just notarize that.
Or common law too, right? It doesn't have to necessarily be a formal marriage. The one thing that is that I want to know too, with regards to the actual premium, the insurance premium. So for anyone who doesn't know, if you put less than that 20% and you have your mortgage insured by CMHC, Sagen, Canada Guarantee, there's an insurance premium that's added to the mortgage. So in this case, with this dissolution of relationship program, if the mortgage was never insured previously, so let's say you put down 20%, but now there's 50% equity and you want to access that 45% to buy out your partner, you pay the full premium on that new amount. So basically, because it's never been insured, you pay the full insurance premium on that. So it's as if you're purchasing it with a 5% down payment, but that equity is going to the person you're basically buying it from, which is your ex-spouse. If it was already insured, you pay the premium on the top up. So if you're already at that, let's say 80%, and you've already paid an insurance premium in the mortgage, you would just pay the insurance on that extra 15% of the equity. Again, I don't want to get too in the weeds, but reach out to Dave and I. We'll go over it all with you if you have questions.
In your conversation with CMHC, did you get into why the terrible name of the program and not just leave it at the spousal buyout program? That is much easier to roll off the tip of your tongue.
Yeah, spousal buyout sounds very obvious. Purchase dissolution of relationship program, the PDR program. So I just thought that was interesting, and I've had to do a bit of a deeper dive into it because of all these conversations. So I know January statistically is the highest month for divorce filings. So I think that's just why, after the holidays, people are kind of reevaluating going into the new year. And I think that's why there's more of these conversations happening. But again, if you know anyone or if you're going through it, certainly feel free to reach out to us, and we can kind of get into the weeds and explain it in specific detail to your situation. Because especially with these, every situation is different. So you can't really paint it with the same brush. It's just a matter of having the conversation, understanding the programs available, and then finding the right solution.
Are you thinking of buying or selling a residential property? Relationships are at the heart of every real estate transaction at Guertin, Poirier, Avocates lawyers. We love to bring residential buyers, sellers, agents, lenders, mortgage brokers, and the law together to close the deal for you for an effortless client experience that opens doors. Call us at 613-744-4488 or visit our website at guertinpoirierlaw.ca. Let's get to the heart of your deal. Your home is one of your biggest investments, and the team at Big Westboro can help you protect it. Our expert brokers will find the perfect coverage to keep your home and belongings safe. Call 613-239-5792 or visit thebig.ca/Westboro for a free quote. Think big, protect what matters most. Are you trying to grow your mortgage business? CENTUM has the tools and support to help you take your business to the next level. Get access to everything from free unlimited custom marketing to daily direct pay. Find out what your business can do with CENTUM. Learn more at joincentum.ca. This episode is brought to you by Easy Neon Signs. Visit easyneonsigns.ca and use the promo code TOREP, TOREP, to get 20% off each and every order. easyneonsigns.ca, Canada's finest custom neon sign maker.
Completely different topic.
Yeah.
CPI numbers came out yesterday, and they were a bit dovish, surprisingly. So this is from, Rob McClister. He has a site, Mortgage Logic News. It is a subscription site. He does write articles in the Financial Post and Globe and Mail and things like that, and it's kind of well respected. So he's kind of going through the headline. Inflation came in at 2.4. The estimate was 2.2, and the prior was at 2.2. Now, something that people forgot about when kind of looking at that increase, because it's looking at year over year numbers when looking at the CPI, is that this time last year and through Christmas, we had an HST and GST kind of holiday, if you will.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Oh, yes, that's right.
Through the restaurants, through the, this, that we didn't have through, and I think even a lot of retail. And so there was a big savings. And what would you know? Taxes implicate CPI. Who would have thought? So last year when we had these GST and HST relief over that holiday season, this is playing into that year over year increase as well. However, inflation cooled to 2.1%, helped along by mortgage interest costs coming down. That finally managed a month over month decline for the first time since 2022. Owned accommodation prices rose 1.3% year over year, the slowest in 12 years. TD mentioned rent inflation, maintained hot kind of across the board and was stubborn around 5%. So inflation averaged around a modest 2.1%, yet the mortgage rates averaged 235 basis points above their level the last time CPI was on target in early 2021. In other words, inflation near the target shouldn't make us complacent. The 2021 to 2023 inflation episode left credibility scars on the Bank of Canada, trade uncertainty, and ongoing fiscal irresponsibility further cast doubt on inflation control. All this has led markets to tack on extra risk premium to bond yields, costing average mortgagers thousands in extra interest costs. So core inflation was actually at 2.6. The estimate was 2.7. Prior was 2.85, which is good. So there is a lot that is going to be coming out in data. Kind of it is expected that the January 29th decision is that it will maintain kind of the same, and there's not going to be really any change by the Bank of Canada because they're still waiting and watching what's going on in the overall environment and what they can expect. We'll kind of keep an eye on that. It was kind of interesting to see it tick up a bit, but again, when you start looking at that year over year, it's important to think about a year past because that's what the CPI is looking at is kind of that previous years. And so some of those things like that GST and HST kind of holiday last year kind of plays into that.
So fun fact about taxes. I mean, I know you're talking about GST, so this is more income tax related, but did you know that income tax was actually originally a temporary wartime measure in 1917 for the First World War? So it was basically like a short-term tool to cover all the extraordinary costs, and then they just kept it implemented after the war. And here we are 100 years later paying, half our income. But that GST break, the reason why I say that is because it was noticeable. Like last year, it was you're like, oh, wow, this is, it's actually $12, not, 12 plus. Speaking of inflation, I posted this on my story the other day and it was just funny, the results. I had to stop. Typically, I shop at kind of the big box stores just because I have 2 teenage boys and they eat the world and they have 4 hollow legs. However, I had to stop at the local grocery store to pick up a couple veggies on the way home. I got 1 head of lettuce and 4 tomatoes Okay. And I put a poll as to like what you think this cost, because I couldn't believe I was at the cash and I was talking to the cashier and I was just shaking my head like, is that really? It was basically $9 for 4 tomatoes and a head of lettuce. And I just, it was one, at first I didn't think anything. I'm like, okay, $9. And I was like, that's crazy. I was just thinking like, that's crazy. Like for 5 vegetables, but that's the world we're in. That's what it is. That's what it costs. But the funny thing about this is that I had like 6.50, 8.50, 10.50, 12.50. I think over, it was like 80% or some 70% said either 10.50 or 12.50. They actually thought it was more than what I had actually paid. So
Yeah, you got a
I think
sale.
people have just,
It was a discount that you got.
yeah, I got a good discount, but it was just it just, people now have kind of accepted that it should be $12.50 or $10.50 for a head of lettuce and 4 tomatoes. It's just we've kind of been like numb to these prices now that, we see gas at 110. We're like, wow, this is a steal, even though we have unlimited oil in Canada and refined, we have the options here. We could be a very profitable nation, and we should be. We will
I
be.
actually leaving I was with a bank that we work with on Tuesday at the Sens game, and
Yeah.
and I actually leaving it there. The gas station by the arena was at $1.09, and I was like, my tank is full. I was like, I should go get some. Like it was kind of wild at how low it was. It was definitely a mistake, I'm sure. Everywhere
Yeah.
else was 29, so I think somebody just forgot a couple digits. But
so what are
way.
you seeing, Dave, now? Like in the conversations with clients, I'm definitely hearing a lot more, like even just direct interest in variable rates, which again has not happened in a while. What are you like? Let's say percentage wise, like what are the conversations you're having, and what percentage of people are kind of leaning more towards variable versus fixed? Because I think this time last year is about 90% people were going fixed.
So I would say most of last year, I was the opposite. I was predominantly variable clients.
Okay.
And with that downward trend by the Bank of Canada and kind of that strategy of, not only is it coming down, but then also being able to convert that variable into fixed. So a lot of people kind of looking at that. I'd say right now it's in the 50-50 bucket of people looking at fixed versus variable. And those looking at variable is a mixed bag of people that are thinking about, they're not sure what they're going to do with the property in the next couple of years, whether that be sell or anything like that. So they want to kind of leave that penalty mitigation there. But a lot of clients looking at fixed are, kind of looking at it, okay, well, there's a 3 in front of it. Is it going to go much lower as far as fixed rates are concerned? If they are, a touch less, but that variable is kind of not showing that same downward trajectory that it was all of last year. So it is kind of in that mixed bag. But from a qualifying perspective, variable on conventional is lower. So that's helped, for people that are needing that refinance to pull out, to pay off some debt or whatever it may be, initially going with variable, kind of with that plan to convert later on as well. Just again, from a qualifying or debt servicing needing to get that extra equity out.
Yeah, we're kind of in that sweet spot. I would say the same. It's probably 50-50. And the 50 that are taking fixed, probably half of those are also at least inquiring about variable or kind of open to the idea of it, but end up, leaning into fixed. There's also the people that have been on variable for the last 5 years, and now, they might have started high, now they've come down, now they want to keep riding that wave, so they're going to maintain that variable. They're just kind of, variable for life type clients, which I know we're both very pro variable as well. But I do think we'll see a bit of a further dip in the fixed leading into the spring, just kind of that race to the bottom for lenders. They know this is the bulk of when that business comes in, and it seems like now everyone's kind of edging that, like that 399, 409, they're kind of all in that range, at least for kind of that 5-year fixed. But the variable rate currently, on average, is about a quarter point, maybe a bit higher, or like between 0.25 and 0.35 below the fixed in almost all cases. And that's kind of that sweet spot where people that are taking variable are thinking, okay, well, this gives us basically one rate hike buffer and the potential to maybe drop a quarter point. To me, that's like the perfect range, right? Like you're kind of in that range where you are taking some risk by going variable because you might spike up, but even if it goes up a quarter point, you're basically at a break even. So in the next year, I think we both agree it'll stay within a quarter point one way or the other. But then after that, it's kind of, you are taking a risk, right? Because if you're taking a 5-year term, I mean, you still have 3-4 years left. But to your point, you can convert that into a fixed rate. So if the variable rate starts to go up and fixed rates have come down or stay where they are, you can convert that into a fixed rate that's equal or greater to the term you have left. So, if you do this in 3 years, you have 3 years left, you could take a 4 or 5 year fixed term for a fixed rate and convert it into that. So people do that. You do that directly through the lender, but it's a good option. It's kind of like a nice safety net if you're taking variable, that you're not locked into that. And if rates go up, you're stuck. You still have some options there.
Yeah, I think kind of what I always look at of kind of really swaying somebody, like kind of that mindset, or at least my mindset of like variable being, kind of the leader, if you will, of what product to look at, is when there's at least a half point delta between the two.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of leading into that two rate, giving you a buffer of 2 rate hikes. Like if the variable is showing at half a point less than the fixed rates, like then it's a good area to kind of really lean towards variable. If all things are equal and you're in the home, you're not concerned about penalties or anything like that, that's a good indicator of kind of giving you that two hike buffer. But certainly kind of that stability, I'm certainly seeing a lot of people, at least in my client base, come back to the fray as far as like looking at that fixed option and kind of looking at locking in for the 5 years. There's kind of that stability in the market a little bit more. Bonds have kind of stabilized a little bit. There has, obviously before Christmas, we saw a spike. They came back down a bit, but they have been kind of hovering around the same level for a little bit. So I think people are seeing that and not kind of those variations. And so they're kind of looking at that, this is what the rates are now. Let's just lock it in for that 3 or 5 years kind of thing.
Yeah.
But everyone's situation is different.
399 is just like, I wish banks would just accept, like 399 to me, just make it permanent. Just make it forever 399. Who cares about the economy? Just keep it in that sweet spot. Dave, why don't we slide into some boosts? What do you think? We ready?
Boost me. Let's do it.
Just a friendly reminder too, if you have any questions, if you're interested in conversing about your mortgage, your renewal, refinance, like reach out to Dave and I. We're always available. Contact information's in the description. And one last shout out to our amazing sponsors, Guertin, Poirier, Avocates Lawyers, Big Insurance in Westboro, CENTUM, and Easy Neon Signs. Here we go. We got 3 boosts today. Number 1, how do cows shop? From catalogs. Yeah. Number 2, did you hear about the Italian chef that died? He passed away. And number 3, last but not least, what happens when a frog parks illegally? It gets towed.
Okay. You know what?
It gets towed.
They're all pretty good. I'll give it to you. I'll give it to you.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. New shows every week, Wednesday, 10 a.m. And next week, Dave's going to be in paradise. So we have 2 guest co-hosts. And we'll leave it a surprise for now. They're locked in. They're ready. We're going to have 3 of us next week. And we'll see you then. Have a great week.
Deuces.